infection is going to be, as well as where it is.
The U.S. has over 900 cases and at least 29 deaths. More than a dozen new cases were reported in this country today, along with a new concern in Quebec, where health officials are trying to retrace the footsteps of one woman in particular. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin on the transit connection.
A warning to commuters in Montreal, look out for symptoms of COVID-19. A woman infected with coronavirus navigated the close quarters of subways and buses in the days before she was diagnosed.
Those persons can be evaluated if they've developed symptoms. Most of them will have nothing.
The risk is low, but officials across the country are stepping up efforts to slow the outbreak as it continues to add patients to an already overloaded system.
Some hospitals today actually have 120% capacity in dealing with the normal flow of patient care.
Both Alberta and British Columbia reported 7 new cases today. 2 are workers at the Lynn Valley Care Centre, bringing the total number of infections linked to that facility to 8.
The investigation continues on trying to determine exactly how this virus got into the population.
And in a letter to premiers, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the strain will stretch far beyond hospital walls and asked the provinces to share their state of readiness and any critical supply or capacity gaps they're concerned with. He's also preparing an aid package to help workers staying home to contain COVID-19.
We recognize that there are going to be significant economic impacts for Canadians, for workers, for businesses. That's why we're going to be talking very soon about measures that Canada's going to put forward.
The government also brought a plane load of 228 Canadians home today. Passengers of the coronavirus hit Grand Princess cruise ship traveled on board a cargo plane under close watch, landing to a 14-day quarantine at CFB Trenton.
We had no idea how Canada was going to feel about all of us potentially infected people coming back home, right? And it was unbelievably welcoming.
There is good news. A BC woman in her 80s, ill for some time now, has been released from hospital, and experts say community spread in Canada is, for now, still limited. Lisa.
All right, let's hope that's a trend. Geneviève Beauchemin in Montreal tonight. Thanks, Jen. We have more now on what will be in that federal aid package that Geneviève referenced. Ottawa Bureau Chief Joyce Napier has some exclusive details tonight. Joyce, there is a lot of pressure on the government to get this one right. What can you tell us?
Well, Lisa, the big ticket item in that package will allow Canadians who self-isolate to apply and receive employment insurance immediately. Normally, it's a 2-week waiting period. Yesterday, the Trudeau government brought it down to 1 week for those Canadians who stay home because they have symptoms. Ottawa has now decided to waive that waiting period altogether. Also, the federal government has already pledged $27 million for research. I'm told there will be a substantial increase. And the federal government will give more money directly to provinces and territories who are on the front line dealing with the outbreak. One official telling me financial considerations won't be an obstacle. And it's hit close to home for the Trudeau government. Natural Resources Minister Seamus O'Regan is now in self-isolation, waiting for results of a coronavirus test. Lisa, he's working from home.
All right, Joyce, and he is not alone. In the UK, the health minister is the first British lawmaker diagnosed with the coronavirus, which has now spread to every single country in the European Union. Italy, of course, is by far the worst. 168 new deaths were reported there today, bringing the total to 631. And there are now more than 10,000 cases. Here's London Bureau Chief Paul Workman.
An empty St. Peter's Square is the symbol of Italy's national trauma, deserted and sealed off like the rest of the country. Even the Pope has gone into isolation. There was nobody shopping in the famous Campo de Fiore food mart. Grocery stores are limited to 10 customers at a time. Italy has fallen sick and lost its appetite. Travel between regions has been banned. The lockdown that started in the highly contagious north now covers all of Italy and beyond.
Dobbiamo chiudere tutti.
As a country, we're used to making sacrifices, says this shopkeeper. We should all just close up and go home. It got worse when British Airlines and Air Canada announced cancellation of all international flights to and from Italy. Worse again when Austria drastically imposed a unilateral ban on anyone coming from Italy by car, train, or plane.
Hier ist das oberste Ziel, die
Our priority is to stop this virus from entering our society, announced the country's chancellor. Only those with health certificates will be allowed in. All of Europe is preparing for much worse to come. French President Emmanuel Macron toured an emergency call center where the number of calls has doubled to 6,000 a day.
Nous sommes au tout début de cette épidémie.
We are at the beginning of this epidemic, he said. We must all be clear and rational. China's leader acted as if the epidemic in his country is already over, strolling through Wuhan City, once the epicenter of coronavirus, now coming out of a severe lockdown. Both China and South Korea have seen noticeable drops in the number of new infections and deaths. So as coronavirus continues its spread around the world, there is at least an indication that mass quarantine and mass isolation seem to be working, Lisa.
All right, Paul, that is some good news. Thanks for this tonight. Monitoring your temperature can also make a difference, and it's catching on right around the world. This is a restaurant in Bamako, Mali, looking for fever and handing out sanitizer. It's the same in Los Angeles. Anyone with a fever is turned away. Testing in Canada depends where you live. CTV's medical specialist Davis Favreau on what to know and where to go when symptoms appear.
This is a first in Canada. Paramedics from Renfrew County near Ottawa.
When did you get a fever?
Demonstrating home testing for COVID-19.
Just tilt your head back, kind of like
They take a nasal sample from people referred by public health, with the test then sent off to the local lab.
We need to find better ways of keeping people from calling 911, keeping people from going to the emergency department, and hopefully keeping them in their own homes while being able to answer the question whether they have COVID-19 or not.
In Montreal, a mothballed emergency room at Hotel Dieu Hospital has been brought back into duty to boost COVID-19 testing. One of 3 in Quebec, it will be open 12 hours a day to test those referred by their physician or by public health.
So the capacity of the site is 60 to 80 persons per day.
And the test itself is painless, taking less than 10 seconds.
We now have figured out that one swab is good enough. Even so, the swab has to be taken from the back of the nose where the virus concentrations are the highest.
The big question, who should get tested? Right now, the Public Health Agency of Canada suggests doctors test only people with flu-like symptoms, with fevers, cough, and difficulty breathing, and who have recently returned from traveling anywhere outside of Canada. But the reality is that not everyone who wants a test will necessarily get it, as doctors and public health focus on testing those most at risk of severe disease, like the elderly, those with other health conditions, and healthcare workers, Lisa, who we will need if the situation worsens in Canada.
So true. All right, Davis Favreau on who should get tested. Now, coronavirus, despite its similar symptoms to the flu, is being treated like kryptonite. Why? Because we know the flu. There's a vaccine for it and medications that work well. The flu is also seasonal, so we know that it'll wind down when the weather warms up. Coronavirus, though, is still mostly a mystery. There's no treatment, and it seems to be more dangerous, especially in the elderly, with a mortality rate of around 3 to 4%. The flu rate is 0.1%. Again, there is no cure or vaccine, so if you see one advertised, it's fake. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration zeroed in on a holistic health clinic in Sarnia, Ontario, advertising a tea as a remedy. It was shut down. The outbreak has a lot of things shutting down, concerts, conferences, but as Heather Bright reports, some of the biggies are going ahead for now.
As fans file into Scotiabank Arena tonight, their focus is on the Maple Leaf game.
There's a little bit of concern.
But COVID-19 is certainly on their minds.
We talked about it, but I think we'll be okay.
It is the quietest derby d'Italia.
Many countries have restricted or canceled large-scale events. San Jose Sharks are weighing their options after county health officials banned all gatherings of 1,000 people or more for the next 3 weeks. The Sharks could play in an empty arena or at a neutral site, but no decision has been made. The NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, and Major League Soccer have all closed their locker rooms to media, but haven't limited fan attendance.
Why is it more important to keep you as reporters away from their players in the locker room than keeping fans in highly contagious parts of the country together?
But the COVID cancellations are piling up. Pearl Jam has put 17 North American shows on hold. Madonna has canceled 2 concerts in Paris. Coachella, the massive music festival in California, is being postponed until the fall. Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and Dr. Phil will all be taped without a studio audience. And Harvard has told its students to move out and not return to campus after spring break. All classes will shift online until further notice. Billions of dollars are being lost because of COVID-19, but Rick Powers, a professor at the University of Toronto, says health must be paramount to profit.
Companies have got to take a look at this and decide what is the best case for them in terms of maintaining some sort of a business regime, but at the same time putting their employees as number one.
And despite assurances from the International Olympic Committee that COVID-19 will not delay the Summer Games in Tokyo, speculation continues to swirl around whether the Games will go ahead as planned. Lisa.
All right, Heather, outside Scotiabank Arena tonight, where the Leafs won, by the way. Coming up in 2 minutes' time, a welcome reprieve.